Privatamam Bande Paramananda Madhavam Sri Caitanya Ishwaram Katanchana Smriti Yasmin Dushkaram Sukaram Bhavet Vismriti Viparitam Syat Sri Caitanyam Namamitam. Okay, Rudradeep Nimai Prabhu, could you kindly share the screen? Who would like to volunteer to read today?
I can, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes,
Am I
ma'am.
audible, Prabhu? Yes. Shall I start,
Yes.
Prabhu?
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada wanted to travel with a group of his disciples by train to Allahabad, but when a devotee went to buy tickets, he discovered that all seats had long been purchased. There was no chance of making reservations for Allahabad, so close to Kumbh Mela. One of Srila Prabhupada's Bombay friends, however, Mr. Gupta, held a high position with the Central Railway of India. Excuse me. And at Prabhupada's request, arranged for a special private car on a train to Allahabad exclusively for Prabhupada and his disciples. Early on the morning of January 11th, Srila Prabhupada embarked on the 24-hour plus train ride from Bombay to Allahabad. He was sharing his first-class compartment with Rameshwar Swami, Jagadisha and Harishavari. And even as the train pulled out of the station, Prabhupada was preaching. Rameshwara mentioned a radio show he had recently been on in California, where a Lutheran minister had said Krishna was a sex symbol because he had so many wives and gopis. Even taking in that Krishna, sorry, even taking it that Krishna is after sex, said Prabhupada, then if sex is bad, why are they after sex? He says that sex is not for God. Rameshwar replied. Srila Prabhupada was sitting on one side of the compartment and his disciples sat facing him. The loud rattling of the train cars on the rails made conversation sometimes difficult. If sex is not there in God, said Srila Prabhupada, then how has it come? God created everything. So God did not create sex? Srila Prabhupada explained that sex exists both in the material world and in the spiritual. Material sex enjoyment being a perversion of the original pure sex that exists in the Supreme. Krishna's sexual enjoyment, therefore, is not at all like material sex. It is the exact opposite. In fact, in as much as the reality is the opposite of the reflection. You do not understand how to face the opposite party, said Srila Prabhupada. He was in an animated, argumentative mood, enthusiastic to know his disciples how to defeat the opposition. He had sometimes described his own spiritual master as Simha or Lion Guru, and they now saw him in a similar fighting spirit. The more opposition there will be, he said, the more we have to defend. Srila Prabhupada Rameshwara asked, should we be thinking in our minds that one day the Krishna consciousness movement will have to manage the cities and the nations of the world? Oh, yes, Prabhupada replied. Rameshwara asked how the devotees could accomplish such a huge, ambitious project. The management would be simplified, Prabhupada explained, since the citizens would live a pure, natural life. Thus, the burdensome, sinful aspects of godless government would become unnecessary, and so many complex problems would be solved. He gave the example of self-sufficient agrarian communities where men earn their livelihood locally, but only by education and by experiencing the higher taste of Krishna conscious pleasure, he said, could the masses become satisfied with simple living. Rameshwara asked if America would become Krishna conscious by a minority of Krishna conscious persons becoming powerful in government while the masses remained as commies. No, Prabhupada replied. You can introduce Krishna consciousness in such a way that they will become devotees. Suppose in big factories, we shall introduce this prasadam distribution and chanting. They will immediately become devotees. Their hearts will be cleansed. Cheto darpada marjana. But will it be like Russia? Pursued Rameshwar, where there is only a small group of people who are in control? No, it's not like that. The quality of people will be changed. So that means only when the whole mass of population become Krishna conscious, Rameshwara suggested, then there will be Krishna conscious government. No, Prabhupada corrected. You can have government when you are in minority. But the mass of people, on account of this quality, they have to see the example. In one sense, these were not immediate concerns. How the devotees would manage the whole world, since the devotees' political influence was at present insignificant. But by answering these questions, Prabhupada was establishing future goals and tactics for the Krishna consciousness movement. Rameshwara Swami, as both a practical manager and a visionary, wanted to know exactly how Srila Prabhupada saw the Krishna conscious world of the future. Srila Prabhupada had the answers, but he indicated that social or political management would be done not by any new formalities, but by pure Krishna consciousness. By changing the hearts of the people through chanting, hearing, studying scriptures, and then organizing things on the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. As the train passed beyond the heavily populated Bombay area and entered the countryside, Srila Prabhupada looked out the window, appreciating the scenery. We have come to the open field, he said. How it is nice. And as long as we were passing through the congested areas, hellish, simply hellish. Now there is open space. How it is nice. Entering into a city is so imposing on your consciousness, said Harishauri. Yes, Prabhupada said. At that point, it is simply rubbish. All papers thrown here and there, and people living in hellish conditions. Now see here how it is open and pleasing. So organize these farm projects. When Rameshwara pointed out that beginning a farm community required a great deal of capital, Prabhupada simply replied that the devotees should show the example and that others would automatically follow the successful pattern. Rameshwara mentioned that in America, although the ISKCON temple presidents were eager to get as many people to join as possible, they found that most people were unable to come up to the required standard. Therefore, farm, Prabhupada said, they have to be encouraged to have a little bit of Krishna consciousness in their own home. Rameshwara suggested, make their home a temple. Prabhupada disagreed. No, let them go to the farm, New Vrindavan. If the people were disinclined to austerity, he said, then let them come to the farm with their wife and children and live comfortably in their own house. And on the farms, they would find plenty of employment. More and more, Prabhupada said, people would become jobless and would be obliged to take shelter of Krishna conscious farm community. So we can expect, said Harishauri, that material conditions are going to become very much worse than present. They may come or not, said Prabhupada. We don't care. Let us establish the ideal society. Although Prabhupada had left Bombay without taking breakfast, he continued speaking for 4 hours and then asked Harishauri to serve lunch. The other devotees left the compartment. Harishauri carried all Prabhupada's personal effects in two small shoulder bags, one with 3 changes of clothing, the other with Prabhupada's plate, bowl, spoon, tiffin, tilaka, and mirror. With just these 2 bags, Prabhupada was traveling all over the world. Although he was the head of a wealthy international movement, he kept nothing for himself and traveled light. Whatever donations he collected, whatever profits came from the sale of his books, whatever properties he owned, everything was in the name of ISKCON. And yet, When it came time to eat in the middle of that dusty train ride, his servant was able to produce silver bowls and a tray and an elegant vegetarian feast. Although Prabhupada kept nothing for himself, by Krishna's arrangement, he was well provided for. Srila Prabhupada sat cross-legged on the train seat and pointed to what he wanted from the stainless steel tiffin compartments his servant placed before him. They were sabjis, puris, fruits, and sweets. After Srila Prabhupada chose what he wanted and began to eat, he insisted that Harishauri also take prasadam. When they finished, Harishauri distributed the remnants of Prabhupada's meal to the other devotees, and Prabhupada lay down to rest. In the afternoon, more devotees gathered in Prabhupada's small compartment, and he continued preaching, mostly in reply to points Rameshwara Swami raised. In regard to brainwashing, said Rameshwara, they claim that our lifestyle tends to take the devotee and isolate him from the world. Yes, said Prabhupada, we hate to mix with you. No gentleman tries to mix with loafers. Crows will not like to live with the ducks and white swans will not like to live with the crows. That is natural division. Birds of the same feather flock together. Rameshwara. They have a list of 5 or 6 conditions, and they say if all these conditions are present, then it's a suitable atmosphere for brainwashing. They say we are imposing those conditions on our members. Prabhupada. Yes, we are brainwashing from bad to good. That is our business. We are washing the brain from all rascaldom. Your brain is filled up with all rubbish things, meditating, illicit sex, gambling. So we are washing them. Cheto darpana marjana. Shrinvatam swakathaha Krishna punyashravana kirtanaha radyantah sto hi abhadrani. Abhadrani means bad things. So the bad things should be washed. Don't you cleanse your home? Don't you cleanse your room? Is that brainwashing? So if you wash your room very clean, who blames you? But you are so rascal that you charge us. Why are you washing away this garbage? We are washing out the garbage and you are protesting. This is your intelligence. But intelligent men wash away the garbage. That is the law of civilization to cleanse. That we are doing. According to Vedic civilization, you are actually untouchable. Now we have come to touch you. Therefore, wash. First, you must wash. According to Indian civilization, the dog is untouchable, but he is your best friend. So you are untouchable. Therefore, we have to wash your brain. Unless your brain is washed, you cannot understand Krishna. Man is known by his company. You sleep with dog, you eat with dog, your best friend is dog. So what you are, you must be washed, scrubbed, Rameshwara. But this is their argument that the standard in America is that you become learned in different fields, science, music, art, and literature. This standard of culture and education is coming from the idea of Renaissance in Europe. But in our Hare Krishna movement, we are isolating ourselves from these things and simply reading one set of literature, Krishna. Prabhupada, this other is not culture. As soon as you change, that means it's not culture. It is manodharma, mental concoction. Yes, we want to stop your nonsense. That's our mission. Those who are intelligent, they have taken. And you also take. Rameshwara raised the objection that Krishna conscious children are not prepared to go to public schools and universities, and Srila Prabhupada replied that they were being saved. But what if they want to change later in their life? Asked Rameshwara. They have become Krishna conscious from very beginning. Prabhupada replied, that is the perfection of life. They are perfect from the very beginning of their life. And you are going to school in the college, but you are becoming most uncivilized, like cats and dogs, becoming naked and having sex on the street. So, what's the value of that education? Stop all these colleges and universities. As soon as they are stopped, it's better for human beings. Rameshwara. They say that if we claim our members are gentlemen, then they Why is it they go to the airport and bother so many people? Prabhupada, they are not bothering, they are educating. When a thief is advised, kindly do not become a thief, he takes it as botheration. But it is good advice. Rameshwara, they say it's invasion of privacy. Every man has the right to think the way he wants. Prabhupada. Yes, therefore I have got right to think like this and sell books. Rameshwara. So if I do not want to hear your philosophy, why do you impose it? Prabhupada. It's not imposing. It's good philosophy. We are canvassing. Take it. You will be benefited. And they are being benefited. Those who are reading, they are being benefited. And why are you advertising? Big, big signboards. Please come and purchase. Hmm? Why are you imposing your so called goodness on us? Why are you doing? Back and forth the battle went hour after hour. Rameshwara unleashing all the arguments against the Krishna consciousness movement and Srila Prabhupada defeating them. Prabhupada called the arguments childish and foolish, and he strongly criticized the materialistic demeanor of from which they sprang. By Shastra and logic, he proved that the non devotee has no good qualities and is less than an animal because of his lack of God consciousness. Such a person, he said, was in no position to criticize, and such criticism only showed ignorance of the real purpose of human life. The train stopped in Manmad, Jalagaon, and Khandwa, as well as other small towns and junctions. And for Prabhupada and his disciples, the day passed quickly in discussion. Prabhupada was absorbed in defending the Krishna consciousness movement. He relished fighting on behalf of Lord Chaitanya. He was speaking, of course, mainly for the benefit of his disciples, but beyond that, he was expressing his compassion for all beings and his dedication to the Krishna consciousness movement. They are spending so much for military strength, Prabhupada continued. They are not performing yajna. So how will there be rainfall? There will be warfare, devastation. It's a most rubbish civilization. They are misleading everyone. Soul killing. It's the blind leading the blind. Even when there is difficulty, we have to do this as Krishna's business. Let the dogs bark on. We don't care. If we remain sincere to Krishna, that is our victory. The external result is not so important. We have to act according to the direction of Krishna. Of course, we want to see good results, but even if there is no good result, we don't mind. We must be sincere to Krishna that we have done our best without cheating. That's our duty. As servants, we shall not cheat the master. Result or no result. The devotee is not sorry if there is no result. Never mind. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I have brought to Banaras the Harinam, but here they are all Mayavadis. So if it is not accepted, all right, I shall take it back. But we must do our best canvassing work. Please take it. That is our mission. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada speaking trailed off into chanting japa. He would chant for a while and then bring up another point. Rameshwara Swami continued to stir the controversies, anxious to fortify his own convictions and preaching ability by hearing directly from Srila Prabhupada. Very often, Rameshwara said, they will say, it is not religion that we are concerned with, but it is brainwashing and mind control. You are chanting so many hours a day. What is it to you? Prabhupada interrupted sharply. That is my business. Why do you bother yourself? Rameshwara. But you are not giving these young people a chance to think when they chant for so many hours. Prabhupada. You are thieves. You are coming to kidnap. Why shall I give you a chance? They are chanting, but you are charging brainwash. You ask them, don't chant. That is your business. But that they cannot, but that you cannot do. Rameshwara. But they say that they, but they say that takes away freedom to think. Prabhupada. That is controversy. but you want to take his freedom and still you are accusing us. Prabhupada said that first there should be a test of what is genuine religion. We say, said Prabhupada, that the law given by God is religion, and it does not matter what name is given to God. If we say Krishna, that doesn't mean that he is not God. So before there is a challenge to Krishna consciousness, there should be an assembly discussion and decision as to what is genuine religion. We say that God is one, and whatever he has given as law, that is religion, Rameshwara. But the Christians say that according to the Bible, if God wanted us to believe in Krishna, he would have told us on Mount Sinai, and he would have told us through Jesus Christ. Jesus said, I am the only way. Prabhupada, that's all right. But Jesus Christ did not explain more to you because you are rascals. You cannot follow even his one instruction, thou shalt not kill. It's not the foolishness of the Jesus Christ, but because you are so rascal, you cannot understand him. Therefore, he avoided you rascals, because whatever he said, you cannot follow. So, what you will understand? Therefore, he stopped speaking. Rameshwara. They also say that you are ruining family life. Prabhupada, that's all right. We are entering Krishna family. Harishavi. But if you are actually followers of God, why are you breaking up the families? Shouldn't you have love for everyone? Rameshwara, one of the commandments is that one shall honor thy father and mother. Prabhupada replied that a devotee loves his mother and father by teaching them Krishna consciousness. Harishauri. My mother testified to that. When I was at home, she said I was impossible to live with. When she saw me afterwards, I was very nice. Prabhupada. Many. Hayagriva's father and mother also. Rameshwara. My parents think like that too. I could have no relationship with them before. But now that I am a devotee, I actually want to help them. Prabhupada. There are so many fathers and mothers who appreciate. None of our disciples are disrespectful to mother and father. Why? I never said you become disrespectful to your father and mother. At Brahmananda's initiation, his mother was standing there, and I instructed Brahmananda, take the dust of your mother's feet first, then you offer me obeisances. So, first of all, he offered his obeisances to his mother. I told him, you have got good mother. Otherwise, how she has got a son like you? I always say it like that. I never say disrespect. In a particular case, if the father and mother are demons, he must give up their association. But we never said break up the family. Rameshwaram. I think we have used up all our arguments. Prabhupada still eager to argue. First of all, you said that we are depriving of food. Where is this? Rameshwara, yes, this is their argument that we only let devotees eat twice a day and there is no meat and very little protein. Prabhupada. That depends on him. If he likes to eat that kind of food, you have no right to force. Then you are turning to force. There are different persons and they like different types of food. If he likes twice a day, why do you insist thrice? That is his choice, Rameshwar. And sleeping only 4 or 5 hours, very little, Prabhupada. Yes, because it's a waste of time, Rameshwara. But this makes his mind very weak. Prabhupada, you rascal, you have nothing to do. You sleep. Napoleon used to sleep for 1 hour, 2 hours. He was such a busy man. So they are so busy in Krishna consciousness. Every great man does not sleep very much. Sleeping is simply a waste of time. If he does not sleep more, it is a sign of greatness. When Rameshwara Swami argued that the opposition has psychologists to testify against us, Prabhupada replied, we have got our psychologists. After talking all afternoon and into the night, Prabhupada told the devotees to rest. At 10 p.m., he lay down and Harishauri massaged his legs. Actually, Srila Prabhupada concluded, their arguments are not very sound. Therefore, it's simply a plan of Krishna's to help give us some prominence. It will make us more well known. Opposition, he said, was just an opportunity to preach. But to deal properly with the legal cases and other serious opposition, the devotees would have to know how to preach and they would have to be spiritually strong. He was readying his men, speaking to them day and night on a 24-hour train ride to Allahabad. Shall I continue, Prabhu? Allahabad,
Yes,
January.
Mother, please continue. Yes.
Yes, Allahabad, January 12th. They arrived at 9 a.m. and half a dozen of Srila Prabhupada's sannyasi disciples, along with the Kirtana party of about 50 devotees, were there to greet him. They had brought Prabhupada's car down from Delhi and he rode the
Mati, I think you can pause. I think you can pause because
yes,
here the
yes,
conversation will shift to the Kumbh Mela itself.
yes.
So uh, we saw in today's reading how Srila Prabhupada meticulously dealt with every single argument that was posed to him. So he was very expert in deflating or defeating all those arguments. And he wanted the members of the Krishna consciousness movement to be well learned and expert like him. So it is not a choice or it's not an option or is it? This is for everyone. He wanted all the members of the Krishna consciousness movement to know Bhagavad Gita thoroughly, to know the philosophy thoroughly, so they can deal with all kinds of opposition. So this is not the activity of only a privileged few, but everybody in the Krishna consciousness movement is expected to know the philosophy and how to refute that philosophy, refute opposing philosophies or opposing ideas or opposing anything which they encounter. So on that note, we saw how the arguments are very, very detailed and it's very systematic. And Prabhupada was really enthusiastic about defending the Krishna conscious movement. We can see and we can learn that we should each of us be enthusiastic in defending the Krishna consciousness movement, the philosophy of Krishna consciousness that Srila Prabhupada is presented to us, because it is the highest, it is the rarest, and there's nothing which compares with Krishna consciousness. So therefore, it is easy to refute any argument that is placed in opposition or in deviance to Krishna consciousness. Any thoughts, reflections, questions on this so far?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Means
Yes.
on a similar term, I have one small issue because when I met one person, he had some questions because I'm not so good in preaching and all. I didn't know how to answer this question because he had read few of Prabhupada's books, and he told that all that you're saying that there are different paths to reach the God, all those things they are fine, but why are you showing that like Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead and you are giving them it's a definite this one, but why can't the person himself has to find out that and reach that goal? So I didn't know how to answer that. Prabhuji. Means, just can you
Because
guide
you are
me?
not intelligent, there is an educational institution to teach you, right?
Yes,
Why do we
Prabhuji.
need educational institutions? They're
Yes.
meant to give you education. You can't find out because you can't find out easily on your own,
Mm,
like that. So ISKCON is an educational institution which Prabhupada set up to
okay.
provide education. Like Prabhupada said, there is no university in the world
Mm,
where there is systematic education of about the soul, right?
mm,
So it is not there on your own. You will not be able to. You'll not be able to do it.
mm.
It may become like the Kupa Manduka Nyaya, frog in the well, because
His
that
argument
is
is.
generally referred to scientists. Others also, by their own endeavor,
Mm,
it is not possible to become learned. Just like Prabhupada gave the example, like medical school is
mm,
there so that you need to go to medical school to become trained in medicine, to be able to practice. So like that, it is not something which you can just try to somehow or the other do it on your own. It doesn't work like that. So like that, we are providing the opportunity for the education because you can't do it on your own. You may take 20 years, but you'll again come back to Krishna consciousness only. No? So we're only making it quicker for you, right?
Okay. Yes. Okay.
So we're making it quicker for you. That is a good thing. The earlier, you're better. That is a Vedic saying anyway. If he's from the Vedic background, he can say, Subhashya Shigram. Whatever is auspicious, do it immediately.
Yes. Okay.
Parishit Maharaj has 7 days to live. We don't even know whether we'll live for one moment. Prabhupada says that. So there is an urgency. All right, we can proceed now. Looks like.
Okay, sure. Just a quick question. Couple of things. Do you know whether this quite extensive question and answer session that Prabhupada had with Rameshwar Prabhu was more documented beyond what was in the Lilamrita? Because it sounds fascinating to be able to go through that extensive set of questions and answers that have been posed for many hours, it appears, during this train journey.
It's there in the database. It's there in the database.
But the whole thing is documented. This is the whole conversation.
Yeah. And there is more to this actually. This is a summary.
Okay, that's in the database, yeah? Perfect. One other observation, Prabhupada's comments on governance and sort of politics. I mean, it appears where we are in today's world that politics is becoming so rotten to the core throughout the whole world, not just necessarily in India, but America is even more rotten. I mean, I find it difficult to understand how that's going to change. I just find it very difficult to understand how that can ever be changed in the current environment.
It's not very difficult to understand because you find that the world was dominated by left-leaning politicians. Now suddenly you find a surge of right-leaning politicians across the world. They're complete opposites, right? But how is that opposite happening? It's happening. That's the very nature of this material world. That these things will keep going up and down. With people people can swing from one end of one extreme to the other extreme. So if we have the conviction that Krishna consciousness is the solution to all the problems of humanity, then we'll be able to pull it off. I mean, I think it is a fact that ISKCON was very prominent during the later days of Srila Prabhupada, that even after he left, in some places like Europe, ISKCON was very prominent, even in France and places like that, where even in the government circles, ISKCON is quite prominent. I mean, quite powerful. But yeah, I mean, things did change after that. But the point is that because of the strength of conviction in Krishna consciousness, they were able to pull it off. So when we have that strength of conviction, then it will happen. And of course, the will, the sincerity, all that is there. But the strength of conviction has to be there to begin with. Is that not? I mean, what
it's
more do I need to say?
The subject. I think maybe we should not enter into this discussion right now. Let's carry on reading because I think you're right. See, people can swing from left to right, but that's a different, quite a different perspective to going from mode of ignorance to mode of goodness. Is a much more difficult swing to achieve. Political swings are easier to achieve, but
yes.
Natural, people's nature is much more difficult to change.
Correct. But we saw during Prabhupada's own time that during Prabhupada's time was the time of the rebellion, right? Rebels Without a Cause. James Dean had popularized it, Rebels Without a Cause. So, but even during with the peak of that era, Prabhupada came and taught all of them that submission to authority is the principle, and they accepted it. So the point is that I mean, I'm coming back to the same thing, that if we have the strength of conviction, of course, it's because it's transcendental. It's not mundane subject matter. So because it's transcendental, materially anyway, people can swing from one end to the other end. But when it comes to spiritual this thing, one should have the strength of conviction, and one should have that realization that whatever. Conviction also comes from realization also. So that is the strength of conviction which determines that are we convinced, like Prabhupada would sometimes call disciples in the middle of the night and ask, are you convinced that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God? So if we have that conviction, that can carry us through. Strong conviction.
Yeah, but
Krishna
remember
is
that
the solution to all problems of
reached.
humanity. Pardon?
But that change happened primarily because we had a pure devotee in the person of Srila Prabhupada
Yes.
on the preaching
On the
and preaching, right?
And
now, without such a personality, such a pure personality, it's difficult for us, or at least for someone like myself in a much more fallen position, to try and achieve that sort of level of impact, unless we have that sort of purity, which isn't necessarily present. Srila Prabhupada was present, and therefore he could make such changes. Unless we have another personality of that pure sort of consciousness on the planet to make that change, it's going to be very difficult.
Not necessary, because Prabhupada said, like father, like son. In fact, he said the son should become even better than the father. And he gave so many, there are several conversations about this, why you cannot be. Prabhupada says, they're saying, Prabhupada, you are the Messiah. Right? And Prabhupada immediately retorts by saying, why you cannot be Messiah? So throughout his conversations, throughout his teachings, he emphasized this point that when one surrenders to the order of the spiritual master, then one becomes extraordinarily empowered. Like Prabhupada would often proudly say that while his sannyasi god brothers had failed to establish Krishna consciousness in London, 3 inexperienced couples had done it. Why? Was it because Prabhupada was on the planet? You could say yes. At the same time, it was not. It was not just the fact that Prabhupada was present on the planet. It was also due to the fact that they had the conviction in the instruction that Prabhupada had given them. So, even if Prabhupada is not physically present on the planet, if one has the conviction in the instruction that Prabhupada has given, then one will be able to pull it off. Even one if it does not, one does not need to be a pure devotee like Prabhupada. Otherwise, he would not say all these different things. I mean, it's not just for the sake of encouragement or just for the sake of say it's not superficially that Prabhupada spoke to all these at all these times. He actually meant it. That why don't you take up the responsibility and do as I'm doing, Prabhupada would say, right? Do as I'm doing. And it worked during Prabhupada's time because Prabhupada had empowered them, and it will work even after his disappearance because the empowerment continues. Empowerment is beyond space and time.
So one argument here is that if you're saying Prabhupada's instructions are so why you can become Messiah too. So does that mean that pure devotion can be achieved even by non-direct associates who come to the planet within the material world? Because that was one of the arguments we had many months ago, that pure devotion is not possible within the material planet. So Suddha Sattva is only in the spiritual world, not in the material world. And I argued against that. And I think you argued that.
I don't recollect what the conversation is, but yes, I mean, the Prabhupada speaks about two kinds of siddhas, right? The sadhana siddhas and the nitya siddhas. So, by practice of Krishna consciousness, one becomes a siddha. And Prabhupada says that once one becomes a siddha, it does not matter whether one is sadhana siddha or nitya siddha. Siddha is a siddha. So, the Prabhupada came to create siddhas, right? So, uh, by the practice of pure devotional service, one becomes a siddha. And as one becomes a siddha also, I mean, as one is practicing, one can still do amazing things. And when one becomes a siddha, he can do still more amazing things. But the fact about doing amazing things starts from the time that one surrenders unto a pure devotee.
Thank you, Prabhu. I think we should restart the reading. I'm taking up too much time. Yes.
No, I didn't get that point about Shuddha Sattva though. I mean, like I don't recollect what the conversation was about. But that devotees in this material world cannot be instantly on that platform, but one can come to that platform, right?
Yeah,
And
so
as
the
one
argument
is coming,
at that time was that your perspective was that Srila Prabhupada is a pure devotee, even though he may have made mistakes at the earlier stage. The purity, once he discovered the purity, thereafter there was no mistakes. And my perspective was how do we know somebody is a pure direct descendant and not just in a mode of pure goodness? Why can't other devotees be in a mode of purity? We put Prabhupada, rightly so, on a platform that is a direct associate. Why could he not just be also a great saint, as there have been many other great saints? Do they all necessarily have to be direct associates only, or can a fallen soul eventually become a pure devotee by practice? And that was the argument we were having at the time. And from what Prabhupada said is that, from what you're now saying, is that one can become a pure devotee. You don't necessarily have to be a direct associate of the Lord in order to have that purity and that impact. So we put Prabhupada on a platform that is a direct associate, but why could he not have been a great saint? Not necessarily. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I'm not saying this is my belief set.
okay, fine. See, there are a couple of things there. One is Prabhupada himself said, Krishna asked me to come down. He said these kind of things to several devotees. But okay, even apart from that, let's take Bhaktivinoda Thakur or Prabhupada. So the eternal associates of the Lord, their pure devotional service is unmanifest by Krishna's will for some time. Then it becomes manifest. But when it becomes manifest, then you have no question about, they don't, like for example, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and his Madhurya Kadambini, he explains the stages which a sadhaka goes through before attaining love of God. So one of that is ups and downs and different things, So these are all characteristics of sadhana bhakti. There, when one practices sadhana, there's ranga rangini, ghana tharal, thick and thin. Sometimes devotees feel thick in ecstasy, sometimes thin. So there are different stages of coming to the stage of pure love of Godhead. So, and somebody who's a sadhaka will exhibit all these different things. But someone like Srila Prabhupada, the Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or eternal associate of the Lord, their Krishna consciousness may not be manifest for some time. But once they manifest their Krishna consciousness, then there's no question about any of these stages of sadhana bhakti. They don't exhibit any of these stages. Just straight, pure, love of God. That's it. So it is like it's like opening a curtain. Suddenly you see, oh, yeah, they're perfect, pure devotees. But that doesn't happen for the sadhaka bhaktas who exhibit these stages of sadhana bhakti, the progression in sadhana bhakti, which does not happen in the case of a eternal associate of the Lord.
Thank you.
So if someone is a saint, from the time they uncover their, like when they start exhibiting their saintliness, from that point onwards, they will not exhibit sometimes up, sometimes down, or basically the 8 symptoms of Bhava, Avyartha Kalati. You don't find them wasting time. I mean, Namagane Sadaruji will always be absorbed in having taste for the holy name. You can find all these. Shanti Rabhyartha Kalatam Viraktir Maneshurita Asha Bandha Samutkanta Namagane Sadaruchi Asakti Sat Gunakyane Priti Satvasati Sale. So they exhibit all these characteristics of Bhava Bhakti, and which is also obviously a symptom of Prem Bhakti, but these are external, objectively verifiable symptoms. So they will exhibit that, and right from the day one, they'll exhibit it. Once they uncover, once they reveal their Krishna consciousness to the world, then you can see them from that stage. Instantly, they are on that platform. But others are not. They go through the stages of sadhana bhakti as outlined by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur.
Thank you, Prabhu. Perfect answers.
Okay. Indulekha Kripamatri, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I have one more question, Prabhu. Like Prabhupada said that whatever the material education, it is like nonsense, or like it's preparing only cats and dogs or something.
Yes.
But yeah, like now means people, they think that it is necessary to, even like even among devotees and all, generally children go for the formal education for like what to say, I don't know for what reasons, for different reasons, maybe to earn some livelihood or something, Prabhuji. So can you just give me some clarifications regarding that?
Yeah, Prabhupada did not just say cats and dogs. He also said slaughterhouse. That's a very famous expression he uses in the Bhagavatam. Modern educational institutions are slaughterhouses, he says.
Yes.
Because, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, the more one is educated, the bigger ass he is. ASS, ass. He becomes an ass, he says. So, what does it mean actually? Because it is not just some information that is being taught in the school. You need to understand this very clearly. It is not just some information that is being presented in schools of how to live. No, there is a worldview that is also being conveyed with education. You know, life is meant for eat, be merry, eat, sleep, and be merry. So there is a whole system of thought that is going into education, right? Otherwise, like for example, now in India, some of the educationalists are protesting that the non-secular character of education is changing into something secular. I mean, it's changing into sorry, the secular character of education is changing into something non-secular. They say all these kind of things. Anyway, I'm just bringing up a point that I'm not talking about secular, non-secular. I'm just bringing up a point that mundane education is not just some information. It's not that you're going to school and learning some skill. Okay, I know, or whatever. You're not going to some carpenter shop and learning how to do carpentry. That's not what it is. It is not as simple as that. Because when you go to a school, there is a whole worldview which is cultivated in children from the time that they are young, and they accept that worldview, they live in that worldview, which is what Prabhupada wants to destroy. You know, Prabhupada is not against, like Prabhupada also said, for our Gurukul children, he said they should know mathematics, they should know some physics, they should know some geography, they should know. So what is the difference then? The difference is, Prabhupada says that don't give education like thieves, you know, like when you see an object, the first thing that you're supposed to think about it is, this object belongs to Krishna. The source of this object is Krishna. This is the first thought that should go into a student's mind. Otherwise, they are like thieves. This is what Prabhupada is trying to say. That first of all, it is not your property, and you start exploiting it as if it is your property. You're not careful with it, right? There's a whole problem of exploiting Mother Nature. No, everybody knows about all this. Like the petroleum industry, plastics, so many different ways in which we are working against Mother Nature, right? Why? because we think we are the lords. As Prabhupada said, we are the lords of what we serve. This is the education. This is the understanding that is created by modern education. We are the lords of whatever we serve. We can do anything. Animals don't have a soul. It doesn't matter, right? So even what is speak, animals don't have a soul. Even children in the womb don't have a soul. They can be killed. So many things. This is what is. I am the lord of what I survey. Is what is conveyed by modern education. That has to be destroyed. Now you may think, okay, but what about the fact that my child may also learn some, yeah, that's fine. Your child may learn some physics or mathematics or whatever. But what are you doing to check what other thing, what is the worldview that your child is coming up with? What is the worldview that this world is meant for my enjoyment? What is the worldview that they're coming up with? That needs to be destroyed. This is what Prabhupada is emphasizing time and again.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, please go ahead. Mr. Allahabad,
Yes,
12th of January.
Allahabad, January 12th, they
Only
arrived
12 days apart. We are only 11 days apart.
They arrived at 9 a.m. and half a dozen of Srila Prabhupada's sannyasi disciples, along with the Kirtana party of about 50 devotees, were there to greet him. They had brought Prabhupada's car down from Delhi and he rode the short distance from the station to the Mela site. Thousands of pilgrims on foot and in rickshaws crowded the streets, making Prabhupada's progress by car slow. Finally, the road ended, but the traffic continued onto the sandy flats surrounding the Triveni confluence of the rivers Saraswati, Ganga, and Yamuna. Here, within a few days, a city of tents had sprang up. 2 million had camped already, with millions more arriving daily. Every spiritual group in India had its bamboo fenced compound of tents. As the car inched along, Prabhupada smiled to see a group of his disciples strolling among the camps and performing Harinama Kirtana. But not until he passed through the congested main area of camps to the far end of the Triveni did he reach the ISKCON camp. The ISKCON tents, most of which had been erected about half an hour before Srila Prabhupada's arrival, were located near a railway bridge on an island called Gangadvipa, and the Triveni bathing area was a 20-minute walk away. The festival organizers had provided simple outdoor toilets, water taps, and a kitchen consisting of a cloth partition, a hole in the ground, and some bricks. It was, as Srila Prabhupada had expected, the usual Kumbh Mela austerity, but he was displeased with the camp's remote location. And when he heard that the electric lines did not reach their area, he became even more displeased. How could people come to the program in the evening if there were no lights? He called for Bhagavata and Gurudasa, who were in charge of organizing the ISKCON camp. Who got this land? He yelled. When I got here, said Bhagavata, it was an empty field. They told me we are putting up on this island. The governor is there.
We are putting
I,
you. We are putting you.
yeah, we are putting you on this land. The governor is there. Kalapatri Maharaja is there. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi is there. I thought you were there with all the leading personalities. Srila Prabhupada laughed. You are inexperienced, so they cheated you. All right, you did not know. But later, when he heard that Bhagavata and Gurudasa had not obtained enough food for mass distribution, he became angry. Again, he called for Bhagavata. Why is there no prasadam distribution tonight? He demanded. Well, Prabhupada Bhagavata stuttered. I don't know. They didn't buy any food. Why have they not bought? Prabhupada was angry. What's the matter with you? You Americans are big spenders, simply wasting money. You have no stock of food. Why you did not stock rice, dal and wheat? Why you have no stock? What's the matter with you? You have no brain. You spend 5 rupees cab fare going, 5 rupees cab fare coming back. and you buy 1 rupee of rice. This is your mentality. You are nonsense. Every time you need something, you go to the store and buy it. You don't know how to buy sufficiently one time and then use it. You cannot think like that. And why have you made this location under the elevated train? Why have you done this wrong? The train is making noise. This pandal is a failure. Food is not being distributed. After 25 minutes of reprimanding, Prabhupada dismissed Bhagavata. A little later, Prabhupada called for Bhagavata again. Bhagavata Maharaja, he began. Although Bhagavata was not a sannyasi. If you can just get the lights on, then you will be doing good. Can you do that? Bhagavata said he could. And by that night, the ISKCON camp had lights. Although, as at all the other camps, the power was frequently shut off. Only a few people visited the ISKCON Pandal the first night. The weather was cold, damp, and windy. Srila Prabhupada chose to sit up all night at his desk rather than lie in the cold bed. Wearing all his clothes, sweaters, a hooded coat, a chadar, and gloves, he sat at his desk in the darkness. A kerosene heater did little to drive the chill from the tent. Rameshwara Swami sat up much of the night too, relighting the heater's pilot light, which blew out every few minutes as the wind swept through the tent. By morning, Srila Prabhupada had a bad cold with running nose and eyes. He did not go to the river for bathing, but used the icy water from the pump next to his tent. His hands and feet were swollen, something that had happened to him before during illness. When the devotee suggested he not stay at the camp, Prabhupada insisted he wanted to preach. People were beginning to discover his location and come to see him, so he wanted to stay and preach. Kumbh Mela, he said, was an opportunity for the devotees to preach, not merely to bathe in the Ganga. The devotees crowded into Srila Prabhupada's tent for Guru Puja and Srimad Bhagavatam class. They had no garland for him, but he said nothing about it. By the time he had ended his short lecture, the sun had risen. He asked Harishauri to put the cot outdoors, where he rested and later took massage in the sunshine. During his massage, Prabhupada looked over at the railroad bridge and said that he remembered this bridge from his former days in Allahabad. He said that his father had been cremated under the bridge on the same island of Gangadvipa in 1930. That afternoon, a group of devotees arrived from Mayapur, and some of them immediately complained to Prabhupada about how poorly managed the ISKCON pandal seemed to be. Prabhupada asked them to try to salvage the program by distributing as many books as possible. So the devotees began distributing Hindi editions of Prabhupada's books. The devotees took their chanting and book distributing down the main road, where they came upon the camps of different Shaivites who sat around their fires wearing only kaupinas, loincloths. Many of them, their hair matted, their bodies covered with ashes, were puffing heavily on hashish in chillum pipes. Nearby, on the other side of the road, were the camps of Vaishnavas from the Ramanuja Sampradaya. Though they were also Tyagis, renunciates, and their appearance was similar to the Shaivites, they were more friendly. They were glad to see the devotees and shouted out, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. The devotees were amazed by the piety of the millions of pilgrims. On seeing the Kirtana party approach, many people offered prostrated obeisances. Others rolled on the ground or picked up dust where the devotees had walked and put it on in their mouths. And although many of the pilgrims were poor, they came forward and dropped at least a few paisa into the pot carried by one of the devotees. Anyone who gave a rupee would receive a book, and the books became so popular that people would come and ask for them by name. Some people threw money, and the sannyasis would catch it in their top clothes, which they could hold out like aprons. But by the end of the day, the devotees had distributed about 7,000 pieces of literature. On the second night, Srila Prabhupada again sat up while Rameshwara Swami tried futilely to keep the heater going. Harishauri had placed Prabhupada's dictating equipment on the desk, but Prabhupada did not touch it. January 14, Srila Prabhupada's third day in Allahabad was the first day of Kumbh Mela bathing and would be a special opportunity for book distribution. An ISKCON chanting party of about 50 men and several Indian Gurukula boys was very well received as they traveled throughout the Mela area. At 1:30 p.m., the time of auspicious bathing, the Kirtana party made its way to the Triveni. As they approached, the police cleared a path for them all the way to the water. By evening, they had distributed 8,000 books, and for the first time since they had arrived, Prabhupada expressed his pleasure at their success. He ordered some of the sannyasis to stay at the Mela until all the books were distributed. The next morning, despite ill health, Prabhupada took a walk. Surrounded by about 25 disciples, he walked slowly. Although he was a small figure, surrounded by tall sannyasis, the Kumbh Mela pilgrims were able to easily recognize his preeminent position, and they would break through the ranks of devotees and offer dandavats before him. When Prabhupada saw people approaching, he would stop walking and let them touch his feet despite the objections of his disciples. He was already sick, and he had explained in his books that a devotee can become ill if sinful people touch his feet. Still, he did not object. Srila Prabhupada was scheduled to stay at the Mela through January 21, but his disciples pressed him to go to a place more suitable for his health. Rarely had any of them seen him so sick, and they worried. But my only ambition, said Prabhupada, is that so many people can become enlightened. Word was beginning to circulate that Srila Prabhupada, the guru of the Hare Krishna movement, was staying in a camp on Gangadvipa, and more people were starting to come to see him. He said that the people coming to the Kumbh Mela were expecting all the holy men and spiritual teachers of India to be there, so he felt obliged to stay until the 21st. Rameshwara Swami tried to advise Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, he said, there is something much more important than your giving darshana to these people, and that is your writing of your books. Only a few thousand people are going to see you here. But if you go on writing, we will distribute your books by the millions. Then millions of people will have your darshana. There is no facility for writing here. The climate is too cold and your health is wrecked. Let's go on to Bhuvaneshwara where it's warm and they have healthy water. Srila Prabhupada had previously mentioned Bhuvaneshwara because of the water of Bindu Sarovara, which was supposed to have special medicinal properties, and he liked the argument that his writing was more important than his remaining in Allahabad to benefit a few thousand pilgrims. For the devotees on his personal staff, his secretary, servant, and cook, to see Prabhupada going through such austerities while suffering ill health was very painful. Finally, Prabhupada agreed to go. He called in Gurudasa and Bhagavata and gave them a final verbal chastising for the mismanaged pandal. Then, on the afternoon of the 15th, he prepared to leave. Rameshwara Swami and Gurudasa went to the train station to purchase tickets, but they found that no seats would be available for weeks. Seeking special consideration, they visited the local railway office, a lavishly appointed remodeled railway car. There they happened to meet their friend from Bombay, Mr. Gupta, and they told him of Prabhupada's illness and of his desire to leave at once for Calcutta. Mr. Gupta phoned Bombay and arranged for a first-class coach to be added to a train coming from Bombay to Allahabad. The devotees profusely thanked Mr. Gupta, who began proposing that Srila Prabhupada travel throughout India in a royal car like the one they were in. The devotees discussed with him about how they might buy or lease such a car, and it seemed an interesting possibility. But the immediate miracle had been arranged a coach to take Prabhupada out of the crowded throngs of Kumbh Mela to Calcutta. After a difficult car ride, inching along through the crowds from the Triveni to the train station, Prabhupada and his party finally arrived at the railway station, where government men helped him and his disciples with their luggage and saw to their comfort. From the devotee point of view, this was the proper respect for a pure devotee of the Lord, the most important person in the world. Yet, such treatment was rare. Srila Prabhupada was pleased and he asked his secretary to type a letter thanking Mr. Gupta, who was caring for Prabhupada. Just like a father looking after a son, he invited Mr. Gupta and his family to attend the upcoming Gaura Purnima festival in Mayapur. During the train ride to Calcutta, Srila Prabhupada reiterated his displeasure with the mismanaged ISKCON Pandal at Kumbh Mela. Thousands of guests were coming to the Hare Krishna Pandal without receiving prasadam. Determined that the bad example not be repeated, he dictated a letter to all ISKCON temple presidents. Please accept my blessings. Now you must arrange in each temple. There must be sufficient stock of prasadam for distribution. You can keep first class cooks, two or three, and they should be always engaged. Whenever any guest comes, he must get prasad. This arrangement must be made that the cooks prepare 10-20 servings at a time of puris and sabji, and then you can add halwa and pakoras, and the visitors may be supplied immediately. Whenever a gentleman comes, he must be served. As the 20 servings are being distributed, immediately the cooks prepare another 20 servings and store it. At the end of the day, if no one comes, our own men will take. So there is no loss. You cannot say it's finished. It's not cooked yet. There is no supply for cooking, etc. This must be enforced rigidly. The temple is managed by Srimati Radharani, Lakshmi ji. So why should there be want? Our philosophy is if anyone comes, let him take prasad, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Everything is being supplied by Krishna. Krishna is not poor. So why should we deny them? This should be done at any cost. There is no difficulty. It simply requires nice management. At the end of the day, you may sell or give away. If we believe that Krishna is providing for and maintaining everyone, then why should we be misers? This means losing faith in Krishna and thinking that we are the doers and suppliers. We are confident Krishna will supply. Let the whole world come. We can feed them. So please do this nicely. Begin at once. Srila Prabhupada asked to hear the reviews of his books as published in the Krishna Consciousness Movement is authorized. His secretary read one review after another, professors praising Prabhupada's work and requesting him to go on producing such valuable books. After hearing the reviews, Prabhupada lay down to rest. The pen is mightier than the sword, Rameshwara Swami declared. Yes, Srila Prabhupada answered, it's a revolution. That is what I thought as I wrote on and on. The communists have changed the lives of people throughout the world by their empty literature and false promises. Why not a revolution started on the basis of the absolute knowledge? January 18, 1977. After the intense cold of Kumbh Mela,
Matthew,
Prabhupada...
can you just pause for a
Yes, yes,
minute?
yes.
Uh, Here we see how Srila Prabhupada, I mean, he is always thinking about how to benefit the masses of people. Para dukkha dukhi. So he initially says he wants to stay on till 21st because so many people are going to come expecting to see the saintly men. So if he is not there, what kind of an example is that? He doesn't want to disappoint people who are coming to see him. But then the argument is presented that you are trying to benefit them, but you'll be able to benefit much more people if you go to a warmer place. That is the argument which is that argument is the clincher, which Prabhupada agrees to, and Prabhupada agrees to leave. So we see how Prabhupada is always conscious about the welfare of the living entities, which is the very central feature of his life, the central feature of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers. how shall we benefit everyone in this world? And the other thing interesting here is this is how Prabhupada, relentlessly chastises Bhagavata Prabhu and Gurudas Prabhu and Guru. Yeah. So this is one side of Prabhupada's one feature, one aspect of Prabhupada's personality, that when public welfare is compromised, Prabhupada would get very, very heavy. Why the pandal is like, who will be able to come? I think he was always conscious that we should arrange things such that people can take advantage of the Krishna consciousness movement. And he would not take no for an answer. He would not take something compromised as a solution. No, he wanted the full thing. And you see here that how Prabhupada, even while Srila Prabhupada, while on his train ride to Calcutta, he writes this letter. What a letter! I remember once when our temple president and the temple management, where they were introducing a coupon system, pay and eat prasadam. So I remember one friend of mine and me, we presented this letter to the temple president and say, "See what Prabhupada is writing." So then he said, "Well, you guys are, you're two small college boys. You don't know how you don't know the complexities involved in running a temple." Something like that. I said, but Prabhupada is saying all these things here. But the temple president wouldn't agree. Prabhupada, actually, that letter is quite comprehensive. He's not giving it. He's addressing the possible thoughts which may come in the mind of a person who's reading this letter. And Prabhupada answers those thoughts also. And say he doesn't give any leeway for someone to escape this obligation of having prasadam all the time in the temple, so that when visitors come, they get prasadam. And this particular section ends where Prabhupada, this is a very common thing which Prabhupada kept on saying. The communists, based on some useless literature, they created a revolution throughout the world. So we have absolute knowledge. So we should be convinced that we can create a revolution in the whole world. Any thoughts, reflections, questions?
One comment comes, one reading somewhere, I can't remember, I can't quote you where it's in the Bhagavatam, but Prabhupada quotes in one of the purports, he normally says age of quarrel and hypocrisy. In one of the sections, he says age of quarrel and mismanagement. And it's quite potent here in terms of how he how he's chastising the mismanagement. And poor Gurudas Prabhu seems to be at the blunt end of his chastisement quite frequently. I have another question. We see in many ISKCON temples that they now sell Mahaprasad. So you can't get Mahaprasad unless you go to the shop and actually buy it. What are your thoughts on that?
Ask me no questions and I tell you no lies. So, well, that's a short answer, which means I don't basically agree with it. What can be done? Like, see, yeah, we can start with simple things. I think that changes cannot happen overnight. You can start with incremental things. Now that you said this, I think I'm inspired to at least talk to my spiritual master who's a GBC member and tell him to start with some small resolutions which can come into picture. Mahaprasadam should not be sold, for example. Let's see. We can start incrementally with one thing at a time. There are some temples though where they don't sell, but there are temples where they sell also.
Sorry, Prabhu, I was on mute. Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, it's. I find it incredible in Prabhupada's movement that Mahaprasad is sold But yeah, you're right. Somewhere it needs from GBC to kind of have a blanket edict on something like that, because I just find that quite
And there are so
unbelievable.
many areas we covered when it comes to prasadam distribution about. But at least it can start with this, that Mahaprasadam should not be sold in this context. See, I mean, at the same time, I mean, this is just from the top of my mind. I don't know whether it's justified or not. I was just thinking as you asked this question, as I replied also, that perhaps a small quantity could be kept on sale so that visitors can also get it. Otherwise, uh, I mean, because the price sometimes would keep all the devotees away. Otherwise, the devotees themselves would just have it and that's it. But as the movement expands, we also want uh, the visitors to taste our Mahaprasadam, deities Mahaprasadam. So yeah, I mean, this is just some loud talk. Let's not get into that discussion right now. But in principle, yes, Mahaprasadam should not be sold. But yeah, what else?
I don't know, Prabhuji. I think some places and all, they won't give the prasadam when the temple is closed, even though means temple means the altar is closed. So they don't distribute prasadam during those times, Prabhuji. Because I know like that, few places like that. What is
I mean, there are many things which people do based on traditions in different places. But we should follow the tradition that Prabhupada established, which is here. This there in this letter. It's
yes,
very clear. This. He says that, what does he say? He uses a specific expression here.
mm,
Whenever any guest comes, he must get prasad. That's it. That's
yes,
our tradition.
mm,
We follow Prabhupada's tradition. This is a tradition he has given us.
yes. Yeah, in many places, probably, as if I know, even the devotees, if they go and want to have prasadam, they won't get unless like they say that you have to pay for the this one. If you have to go and have some prasadam, they say you have to pay for that one to take prasadam. They
Yeah.
have the
See,
stipulated time, but still they'll
the
go
point
and
is the topic is so vast that
yes.
I'm sure that those who are saying this will all have a lot of things to say why they're doing it. But even if you show this letter, like I remember I showed this to my temple president, he had some, I don't remember what his arguments were because it didn't matter to me what the arguments were. But so it may not be possible to create, what do you call it, uh, a change instantly or in a very short time. But how do they say that incremental change eventually snowballs, so if we can start implementing incremental changes in this car, eventually it would snowball. So that's the way to go. Or if, I mean, sometimes people set up temples fresh, and where the temple president is very dynamic and has got this vision, and they're also able to pull it off. I've seen some temples are able to pull it off very nicely. So that's another way. When one temple is beginning to become very successful, showing the way, then other temple also generally feel inclined to follow suit.
And sometimes what happens, Prabhuji, generally on Sunday feast time and all, they will make prasadam thinking that these many like expected guests for prasadam
Yeah,
and for like Sunday feast and all. But what happens is during at the time of prasadam there will be other like almost double the number.
yeah.
So yeah, they will compromise on the quality of the prasadam. Like either they will put pour water or they'll make it some I don't know what they make.
Hmm, hmm.
Yes, Prabhuji, the practical thing which we have experienced too.
So neither the devotees nor the newcomers will get something, the real thing.
Yes, Prabhu. No, yeah. Because mostly it happens because people, especially in our temple, they have come to know that okay, there is prasadam in the afternoon on Sundays. So nice feast prasadam will be provided. So they won't come for the aarti, they won't come for class or nothing. But during the time of prasadam, they will be there more, which really.
Personally, I don't think it should make any difference. Let people have prasadam, something,
Yeah.
Uh, Prabhupada's idea is let anybody come and take prasadam. This thing about how much to cook and all these different these things, these are all yeah, what do you call it? I wanted to say something, I forgot. I was something interesting, which was my part of my experience. Yeah, I remember now. I went to one temple and I was surprised to know that the cook who was cooking prasadam did not know the offering mantras. So I did not ask him what he was doing, but I was wondering in my mind, how does he offer prasadam? He doesn't know offering mantras. So sometimes the temples are so negligent that they don't even bother whether the person who's cooking prasadam knows how to offer the prasadam, cooking the boga. I mean, knows how to offer the boga to Krishna. They don't even think about it. So anyway, uh, that does not what is it? That's not the right thing. Prasadam is one of the main central pillars of the Sankirtan movement. So there should be good. I mean, as they say, love. One aspect of love is attention to detail. So you can see whether a temple president loves or a temple leader loves distributing prasadam by seeing how much detail has gone into this preparation and distribution.
Yes,
Okay,
also,
I mean, I think this is a very, it's a, there are unlimited things that can be discussed about it. But the principle is, Prabhupada is not giving anyone a leeway. Whatever your excuses may be, stop giving the excuses, start doing it. That's all. But as I was saying, that you can't expect things to change overnight, but at least incrementally, if it starts, one day it will become the real thing, the full thing.
One problem with an observation you made earlier was that a successful temple, people emulate and copy, but quite often the temple success is looked upon by the revenue and so the income and the number of people who attend, as opposed to its impact on actually enhancing Krishna consciousness. And that commerciality is quite often copied, as opposed to the devotional aspect of the success of the project. We found that here anyway, where temples become quite popular because of its commercial prowess. It doesn't necessarily make it potent from a preaching and from a increasing Krishna consciousness perspective.
You're right. You're right. You're right. Okay, Neela Madhuri Mataji, sorry, Indulekha Mataji, you can continue for some more time.
yes, Prabhu. Will it be shared to you?
Yeah.
Okay. January 18, 1977, after the intense cold of Kumbh Mela, Prabhupada had recuperated a couple of days in Calcutta. His head cold had gone away, but the swelling in his hands and feet persisted, as did other maladies. Externally, he was diabetic and suffered from poor digestion, as well as from the general dwindling of physical powers common to an 81-year-old body. His condition was not suited for continued travel, hard work, frequent lectures, and taxing management. Yet, Prabhupada was transcendental to his apparent material condition. Although sometimes he would inquire about cures, mostly he was callous toward his poor health. Even after receiving a doctor's advice or concluding himself what was good for his health, he would often ignore it in favor of what he thought was best for spreading Krishna consciousness. Previously, in Vrindavana, he had felt better by drinking the fresh well water, so he thought he might also get relief by drinking the water of the famous Bindu Sarovara near Bhubaneswar. Besides, ISKCON had recently acquired a small.
Just a short this thing on this. It's not that uh, I don't know. It's not that Bindu Sarovara in Bhubaneswar actually the water has medicinal properties. So this part that Sacharuk Maharaj is writing about, it's not because by drinking fresh well water, see that could also be one of the reasons. But there's also an additional reason, as he himself mentioned earlier, that Bhubaneswar, the Bindu Sarovar water has medicinal properties because Prabhupada was a pharmacist in his earlier in his civil life, and he was very familiar with all these different things about medicines and cures. So it's not just because he drank the fresh well water, therefore he thought he might get relief by drinking water. Famous, but he also knew that Bindu Sarovar had water which had medicinal properties. Please go ahead.
Besides, ISKCON had recently acquired a small donated plot of land outside the city, and Srila Prabhupada's Orient disciple Gauragovinda Swami had gone there, constructed two simple dwellings, and was making plans to build a temple. The train journey from Calcutta to Bhubaneswar was 12 hours, another opportunity for Rameshwara Swami to prove. His 30-day assignment as Prabhupada's secretary was almost over, and then he would return to Los Angeles and his American BBT duties. He had come to India to set on inquiring from Prabhupada about whether there would be world war and if so, how book distribution would continue and how in the future a new world order of Krishna consciousness would be introduced. Prabhupada had answered many of his questions, but there were always more. The Puri Express left Calcutta around 10 p.m. After taking a massage. Srila Prabhupada stretched out on the lower bunk to rest, and Hari Shauri and Rameshwara took the two bunks opposite him. Around midnight, Prabhupada turned on his light, sat up, and began chanting softly on his beads. Within a few minutes, Rameshwara awoke and, seeing his spiritual master sitting up, paid obeisances and also sat up, waiting expectantly. Immediately, Prabhupada began to speak about the inevitability of war between Russia and America. Even if America took to Krishna consciousness, the war would be inevitable, the only way to stop the godlessness of communism. When Rameshwara asked if that war would be within his lifetime, Prabhupada said it was difficult to say. It depended, he said, on the devotees' distribution of books and Back to Godhead magazines. Although in Russia, the government tried to strictly control all literature, Krishna conscious books were entering nonetheless and were immediately becoming popular. The communist leaders were becoming fearful, but they also had some respect for Indian culture. Prabhupada said that by increasing book distribution, America and thereafter the whole world would become Krishna conscious. So you have to push on more and more, he said. This opposition, brainwashing charges means they are recognizing this as a culture. They may like it or not, but they recognize it as something permanent. Prabhupada said he had no political aim, but he knew that Indian culture, coupled with American money, could save the world. You must think in terms of the whole world, he said, not just one nation. That's our preaching. That's the duty of the GBC. The talk went on for more than 2 hours, and Rameshwara felt completely satisfied by the intimate instructions. Although he had once before asked some of the same questions about book distribution and the war, Prabhupada had chosen not to answer. But now he revealed some of his thoughts, just as a father instructing a trustworthy son. Conditions on the ISKCON
Okay,
land.
I think we can stop there because this section is a different thing altogether now.
Yes.
Let's start about. I mean, mm, yeah. I mean, it's about Bhubaneswar. That is the whole. Again, we come back to his health, but anyway, I think we'll take that up in the next session. Any other thoughts, reflections, questions, comments on so far what we've done? Okay, we've come to the end of 2023 and wishing all of you a very successful year in Krishna consciousness in 2024, according to whatever you want to succeed in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada in one place says that for us there is no new year. For us every day is a new year. Yet nevertheless, we can always take advantage of some turning points like this, where generally people, we are interested, how do you say, we make use of every opportunity to become more Krishna conscious. So since this is the convention of this world, New Year's, and they try to make some resolutions and things like that. So we can always think, okay, 2023 is past, is today's last day. So 2024, how can I make my Krishna conscious life better? There's no harm in coming up with something which as again, I believe in the principle of incremental things. So incrementally, if we can do something every year, that would itself be a great thing. I mean, great thing in the sense that great for our advancement in Krishna consciousness. If we can do something incremental.
Thank you, Prabhu, and wishing you and your loved ones the same. And very spiritual and Krishna conscious New Year to you as well. I have a big favor to ask you, Prabhu.
Yeah.
I'm doing it in a slightly open forum, so forgive me. We started the Parampara Vaibhava through Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu, who was doing Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's life. But we paused it, and that got suspended because of his ill health, and he went away, and he never got restarted. And that was like probably now close to 9 months, a year ago, that we've had no sessions on that. That was paused, and it's kind of, that used to happen on Thursdays. We're coming close to the end of the Lilamitra now. May I request that perhaps you take the baton on and carry on with the Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami's.
Actually, the Lilamrita is much smaller compared to Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava. I don't know what exactly he was doing. I need to talk to him to see how he managed to condense it and things like that. Or was he reading from page to page of Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava?
Yeah, we were reading page to page.
Okay, page to page is much more easier because philosophy can always be condensed, but pastimes, everything in a pastime is significant. It's not like, okay, like for example, in the beginning, I did condense the Lilamrita because there are descriptions of the place itself, like for example, the League of Devotees or something like that. So that was something which I could do. But later on, there's nothing that you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean this section of the whole
page to page,
purpose of this Parampara Vaibhava is supposed to be the way we're supposed to be covering.
Whether he would be coming back to Mayapur or whether he would be willing to resume it, or let me have a discussion with him, and then based on that we can decide.
Yeah, I think the idea was that this Parampara Vaibhava section of the MI was supposed to cover each and every Acharya's teachings in detail over the next few years. It was supposed to be a detailed, and this was parallel. Lilamrita was running parallel to Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu's sessions, but those got suspended, and we've kind of stalled on all of it. Really, I mean, quite a lot of these sessions have stalled. Not just this one. There's about 5 sessions that have all stalled. But if we can get this one up and running again, we've built up a nice little rapport and group with you now. I think, I'm not sure whether many of the individuals attending this were attending that one. It was a smaller group, even smaller than this. I think we only had about 5 or 6 people regularly attending that. but it would be really nice to be able to carry on and cover each of the acharyas in detail, as was the original target.
I mean, see what happened. There are some realities which have changed. This has started during the COVID era, so there's a lot of demand for online education. But now things have got back into on-site mode. So the definitely the demand for online education has decreased. Although people still look forward to it in terms of getting a Bhakti Shastri degree or something like that. But in general, things have become more on-site. And originally what had happened was that the idea was to teach Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita, but that slowly expanded into Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Then it expanded into the Acharyas. So I need to trace out how that, I mean, who actually conceived of it and what actually their idea was. So then, anyway, it's not some rocket science or some complicated thing. It's just, I guess, the whether I just need to find out if they had anything specific in mind, or I mean, apart from studying, whether they had some particular way of doing it or something. I'll get back to you. Let me discuss with Don Gaurang and let me just get back to you.
Perhaps you could discuss it with Padmanabhan Prabhu, more importantly than necessarily the teacher, because I think that he had this vision in mind when we discussed it quite a lot a couple of years back when all of these were being drafted and charted out. But I think that if perhaps you can speak with Padmanabhan Prabhu and try and see if that helps.
Sure.
Thank you, Prabhu. Sorry for
Thank you.
bringing it up in our
No worries. Relevant topic.
I'm really thankful to Shailesh Govind Prabhu for bringing this topic, Prabhuji, because we were missing that class too. It was very interesting when Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu was giving.
Sure. Okay. Okay, so we'll end today's session and resume the next session next year, 2024. वांछिकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, निताई गौर प्रेमानंद।